Hi. In this video, we're going to discuss the volunteer duties that all volunteers are required to follow. Let's get started. Um, so, one of the general cycle of the everyday class is, you arrive 30 minutes earlier prior to the class. So if the class is, let's say, from 3 to 4, then you arrive at 2:30 p.m. That's the idea. And then there is a setup required in the class. Sometimes the classrooms require that you set up the tables and arrange the chairs, etc. So you do that. And if then the other pieces that are required are like, collecting all the one in math packets for your students, arranging them and preparing so that when the students come in, they're ready to, what packets are for those students, and you can then make a decision to give or not give and how to proceed. Um, the other thing is, of course, in the class when the students come, you're teaching the students. That's, of course, the bulk of the work for an hour or so. And after you have finished the class with the students, you would update the tracker. Now, the student tracker is something that we will talk about in one of the later sections. But the idea is to be able to record the progress of your student, of what packet they did in the class, what packet you are given for the homework, and what's the packet you're planning to give in the next class. So basically, you're trying to update the tracker. And after that, you are uploading the packets. So the packets that need to be printed for the next class, you would upload them. Usually, we upload them on a Google Drive. In some libraries, we actually use a USB drive, but whatever the mechanism is, you would upload those packets into the correct folder or correct drive, and so that it can then be sent for printing. And then you would do the debrief. This is where you are working with all the volunteers, who have been in this class, and you're going through and working with each other, and we'll talk more about it, later in the slide, of trying to get to know about, the issues or the solutions, and, anything good or bad that happened in the class. And then, the last thing that you do is to clean up, because you want to leave the room exactly the way you actually when you came in. So that's how the libraries want to kind of maintain the room that you're using. So that's basically the overall, picture of what your duties are during the 2 hours, 1 hour of the class, and half an hour before and half an hour after the class. So let's see, just to a little bit around what needs to be done to upload the packets. So you are trying to upload the packets for the next week's class, both for the classwork and for the homework. So you're trying to make sure that you have enough packets for the particular students that you are teaching, so that you don't have to kind of run around or try to figure out how to print a packet during the actual class next week. So usually we suggest that you print at least plan for 3 packets, two for classwork and one for homework. Usually, there is a depending on the student may be doing one per class, 1 packet per class or 2 packets per class. And usually you give only 1 packet for the homework. So that's how, you want to plan it. As you learn about the students, you would know that they really can do only 1 packet. So I'm going to print 1 packet for the class and 1 packet for the home. So that's something you decide, as you gain experience, and you upload it to the Google Drive or USB drive, as I said. And of course, if you have packets, so what happens is, as you print the first couple of weeks, you're printing a lot of packets, but then based on the speed of the student, you might actually have packets left over from the previous class. So you don't need to print them. You just need to plan to give them those packets for the next class. So you don't have to upload those packets that are already been printed previously for whatever reason. So just upload the packets to be printed that do not exist right now as a printed packet. And of course, some libraries we have seen, they provide you a printer, so then you just do your own printing. But whatever it is, you do this thing before you leave the class. so that for the next class you're ready. So let's look at what happens, for the teaching part. So when your student comes in, they will bring the homework from the previous class. So you bring the homework, the student will hand over the homework to you, and you are then going to review the homework, and you would ask oral questions or written questions to check to make sure that they understand the content of the packet, and we will go through what the actual, how to do the oral evaluation and or written evaluation of the packet in detail later. But the main point is that you are actually testing the knowledge that the student really understands the packet. And that's when, you're going to, based on that student's performance, you're going to make a decision which packet to give for classwork. So there are different options, right? One is you can say that, hey, the student doesn't understand this packet, he's struggling. So you're going to repeat that packet, or you're going to say, no, the student understands, I'm going to give the next packet. Or, the student actually didn't finish the homework. So then you're going to ask the student to really finish that homework in the class before you give the next packet. And rarely what happens is, you might actually run into a situation where you did not diagnose the student properly, or the student is not at the level that they should be in. Maybe they're at a lower level than they should be at a higher level, or they're at a high level and they should really be brought down to the lower level. Whatever the decision, that's the decision you would make. And then you would give the particular packet that you made the decision to give to the student, and you will explain how to do those packets. You will solve like 3 or 4 problems with the student, and show them what needs to be done and the concepts or anything that are there. Like, for example, if there is sum of numbers, or there is like facts, math facts, and there are many different kinds of things that you will learn, and you will basically teach them, and then you will give them the classwork. So that's basically what happens when the student arrives. um, so now what happens is, this is what happens once the student arrives. Now during the class, you're going to allow the students to work on the packet, and you are actually observing, and every 1 or 2 page, you're actually checking to make sure that the student is not doing any mistakes, because if they're doing some mistakes in the actual problems, you want to correct them right there and not let them repeat the exact same mistake for like 7 or 8 pages. So the idea is, you are watching them, you kind of scanning them, like one by one. And if you see that they're making a mistake, then you just work with them, and we'll teach you how to work with them a little later. So a few tips, what you need to do or not do, or what you need to kind of, remember, so that you have a more effective class with the students. So number one, it's very important to explain the facts and theory. And you provide the instructions. Don't just hand over the sheets. If you hand over the sheets, the student may not really know what to do. So you always do like 3 or 4 problems in the beginning with the student. You explain what the concept behind solving this problem is, like facts, or doubles, or whatever those numbers are. You provide them instructions. Usually the instruction sheet in the beginning will have like what it's trying to teach, and give you instructions how to teach them. But generally it will be a lot of common sense also for you. And you're going to work at the child's space. You don't want to work like, okay, hey, you got to finish everything, or you got to finish only like 1 page. No, you're going to work. You don't want the child to kind of just start to manipulate you. You want to really work with the child and see how much they can do, but at the same time, working at their speed. And every child would be different. um, one packet, when you say one worksheet, one packet per class is not necessarily a requirement. The kids can do more than one packet. Some kids do 2 packets or whatever. Some kids might do a little bit less than 1 packet. If that happens, then you give that same packet for the homework, right? So the other piece is the students, you have to watch when the students are solving. So there is like a certain pattern in these packets, and we will show you about that. And if you see the students are actually figured out the packet, and they start looking at the answers, that they already solved, and they're starting to copy, then you want to try and hide those problems, or, with the white paper or something, or, with your hands itself, and say like, okay, now you do it. So that way, we want the students to learn the pattern, not to just copy. So that's that point. And you're trying to, and this is what I was trying to say, be attentive when children make mistakes, because when they're making mistakes, catch them right there. Don't wait. And work with them how to derive or come to the right answer. So you want to be very proactive in the class. So then let's stop here and work through some of these scenarios to see what the issues might be and how you would solve them. Now this is something that is discussed in the classroom, and we have a questionnaire that you would fill out if you are online, to really ask these. So like when the students are not motivated, there are many ways the students would actually try to tell you why they're, when to notice that they're not motivated. They'll say, oh, I'm really tired. Oh, this is really boring. Can I do only 2 problems? Can I do only 1 sheet? They'll try to negotiate with you. So they're trying to work with you, right? So how you would solve them? So let's think about it and share with the share in the actual questionnaire. Students constantly negotiating with you, and that's something that we have seen. Some students would say like, okay, can I do one only? Can I do two? Can I then go home? Can I then play? There are many things that they would actually try to negotiate. So how would you deal with those students? The third one is, sometimes they're like, they start throwing tantrums because, they're either just overactive or they're trying to get attention. Sometimes they even try to hit some other students. Rarely it happens, we've not seen that happen much, but sometimes they do. So how are you going to handle them? Right. So let's think about it for a while, for a second, and then, write those answers. Some students, are too quiet. They just, you do whatever you want to do, they just not going to talk. So how are you going to address them? What are you going to do to really motivate them so they don't remain quiet, right? So that you can engage with them. So what techniques would you use? So think about that. Uh, ask for too many bathrooms and water breaks. So this is, some students get smart. They actually figure out that, hey, I can actually go to bathroom multiple times and then I don't have to do the work. So I'm glad that the students are smart, and they're trying to figure these out. But then how are you going to deal with them, right? Because obviously it doesn't make sense that they go bathroom like 5 times, right? And the other piece is, safety. Safety, it's this is something that we actually say that, hey, this is like, there is no compromise about safety. If there is something that you see that is not safe, for example, the student is leaning back, on the chair and the chair might topple over, that's a very unsafe behavior. And you want to stop it right there. There is no negotiation there. And sometimes, the student starts to hit the other child, absolutely no. So you want to stop them right there. And then, if it becomes a challenge, then you actually call the leads or you take the student to the lead, and they would then work with them. So but safety is absolutely not a compromise. So think about these scenarios, and let's go to this volunteer duties spreadsheet, or the paper questionnaire, and please fill out these exercises. And so please pause the video, and once you're done with that, then come back and restart the video. So we'll move forward from here, uh, just to keep going. So now we talked about, in the beginning of the class, we talked about what happens during the class, and now what happens towards the end of the class, right? There's the three sections of the class. So number one, you want to give an oral assessment to the student itself. So you want to know how the student is done with the packet. Do they know the actual concepts and the knowledge of whatever is covered in that packet? So if usually the last sheet of the packet has all the combinations of the problems. So you can just look up the last sheet and then ask problems from that, or you just come up with the problems yourself. Because let's say it's add 6 to 9 to 0 to 5, and they're doing add 4 packet. If they're doing that, it's add 4 with the range of 6 to 9. So you can ask like 9 plus 4, 4 plus 9. 8 plus 4, 4 plus 8, those kinds of combinations. And then you can just generally throw in like 8 plus 3 or something like that. So that's what it is. And based on this oral assessment, again, the decision point comes of how you'll make the decision around which packet to give for homework. And when you decide, what packet to give, then don't just hand over the packet. You want to actually explain to them what the homework assignment is, and work a few problems with them. Okay. So that's what's is like the 3 phases of the classes. And one main thing we want to highlight and emphasize is really you want to be constantly be very vigilant looking at the students. And because you have 4 or 5 students, you're kind of scanning them and checking, and you're constantly on the job to make sure that every student is doing well. And if there are issues, then you're addressing, as we discussed, in the past slides. Oral assessment is an absolute must. You should not proceed until you've done the oral assessment from one packet to the other. And I just talked about, constantly looking and helping the children. And of course, no cell phones, no doing your own work or your own class homework, right? This is really focused on the kids. So please do not do anything that is just for yourself, right? And of course, you might need the cell phone to check some, one in math websites and stuff like that. Usually you would get the laptop, so you would do it on the laptop and not on the cell phone. And please don't talk to each other. Sometimes, you'll have your friends also as tutors, or you might know a kid, from your family acquaintance or your friends, circles, or etc. So please don't start chatting or start talking to them. The kids get distracted and they lose focus, and it doesn't create the environment that we want to create. All right. So just to capture the whole cycle. So the student attends 1 class a week. You review the homework and assign the classwork. You teach the new concepts of the packet that you assigned. Students do the classwork, and you review that packet, that is done in the class. You make a decision, assigning what packet you're going to assign for the homework to take home. And then you update the student tracker that we will talk about later. And then you do the upload or printing for the next classwork and home, and the cycle basically repeats. Okay. All right. So the other part, after the class is done, what is the next step? The next step is to clean and debrief. That is an important part, because so this is a photo of people sitting down, and sometimes volunteers like to stand and do it. Sometimes they like to sit down and do it. Whichever way, they make a circle and do it. But the main thing is, you want to do a debrief and you want to clean up. Cleanup is basically, as I said, putting the tears and shavels. If there's any paper lying around or some stuff, you want to pick them up and put them in the trash cans, etc. So debrief, let's go a little bit around the debrief. You might have already experienced, you've done this in your younger years or in your classes, how to share the experience, the concept of rosebud and thorn, right? So rosebud and thorn, you basically do the rosebud and thorn, and you pick one, and then you say, okay, hey, I have some interesting stuff in that work with the children that I want to share. Or, or you want to share like something that worked with the student. Or, you want to say, hey, I struggled with the student, in this way, what could I have done? And, the other volunteers or other tutors, would kind of chime in, and they would kind of, share their thought process and everything, what they could do or what they did. Ask questions. The whole point is, it's a very participatory thing. The reason why we do this, number one, it actually, helps you to do your job better, but also it gives you a experience of what actually happens at real work. And once you start to do this and you get into the rhythm of this thing, you'll be that much more prepared as you go along, to your colleges and to the real work world. So take these things, with that spirit. So it's getting back, so think why something worked, what would you do differently, so you're constantly the idea is not to just brainlessly come and teach and then just go. The idea is, hey, to really be present and to really feel what is working, what's not working. Observation power is really important, because the more you develop your observation power, the more effective you're going to be, not on this class, but also in the future for yourself. So think about that way, and do the debriefing. It shouldn't take more than 5 to 10 minutes with a whole set of or your team. Okay. And so think that you're building a better community as part of this thing, but you're actually gaining a lot for yourself. All right, so that's the next section here. So this is where we would stop this video. Thank you.